Welcome to Old Roommates. This week on the show, we revisit the movie Clue from 1985. So grab your closest weapon and meet us in the conservatory so we can begin.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Brian.
And this is Christina.
And we are talking about Clue 1985, starring a cast of characters based on a board game. What could possibly go wrong? Christina, 1985, when was the first time you watched Clue?
Well, you know what's interesting about Clue? I'll tell you what's interesting about Clue. Clue was the first video I ever rented.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
There was a video store that had opened down the street from my house, and I don't know when we had the VCR. I feel like we had the VCR beforehand, but like we never really rented movies. We probably just bought movies or something.
So, do you remember when VCRs were like $400?
Yes, it was ridiculous.
It was crazy.
It was ridiculous. But I remember that this video store opened up walking distance, and my sister and I and my mom, I think it was my mom, and I think maybe just my dad, walked down, and we were like, it was so overwhelming because we had no idea what to rent. And I remember it was taking forever trying to find one. And then we finally found this, and it looked great, and so we rented it.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the first time I ever watched it. I will be honest, I don't have a lot of memories about this. I did not have a lot of memories about this movie. I don't know why, especially after rewatching, but I remembered some of it.
Wait, so how many times have you seen Clue before?
Just that one time.
God. Because you had said, whoops, my phone fell. You had said you hadn't seen it in a while, but I didn't realize you had only watched it once.
Yes.
Ever.
Once ever.
Okay.
So it was, as I was watching it, so if you had asked me, last week or whatever, I wouldn't have been able to give you a lot of information.
Wow.
As I was watching it, some things came back.
Okay.
Which was great.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I did watch this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of memory about it. I didn't remember it being extremely funny.
Okay.
It was 80, what'd you say?
85.
It was 85, and I rented it. So, it was probably, 20. It wasn't like it was over my head. Yeah,
right, that's right. Because it would be a couple year or two after, right?
Yeah, it wasn't like it was over my head or anything.
True.
But yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe I was just like, I had a boy on the brain or something. Who knows? But I didn't remember a whole lot about it.
That's so funny. My situation was, first time I watched this was on video. And I had heard, so even though I was young, I was very much into, I was reading, Premiere Magazine was a thing. And, I was really into, Entertainment Tonight and just, Hollywood behind the scenes. And I just followed movie stars and that kind of thing, and I knew that Clue was a bomb. It was a box office disaster and made for $15 million. It made $14 million, but because there's so many actors involved, it was considered a major flop. And I was like, I watched it anyway because I loved Clue, the board game. So I'm like, well, how bad can it be? And I loved it. Mm-hmm. I watched it on VHS and I loved it. Now, I could imagine being in a movie theater and being like, wait, what? We just watched something, and I said the same thing to Carl. I was like, if I watch this in a movie theater, I would... Oh, damn, I'll think about it. But it's that thing where it's like...
Right.
Oh, it was Bad Moms Christmas.
Oh!
also another cast of wide cast of characters. But that's a movie where it's on TV, I laughed, it was fine. If I was sitting in a movie theater, I don't know if I would have been as charmed by it. Clue, I could see why people weren't maybe crazy about sitting in a movie theater.
Definitely.
It's very unusual. It feels very stagey, and it's not based on a play.
It's very stagey, and it's dark.
It's dark.
Physically dark.
It's also fast, and it's a lot of the dialogue is lightning speed, and there's many times where So, all right, I'm jumping, but it's like, I loved it. And I have seen it so many times over the years. I hadn't seen it in a few years. Certainly way before the podcast. So it was like, so to watch it now in the rewatch was a pretty interesting experience. But go ahead, so we can just dive right in.
So diving in now?
Yeah.
I loved it. I don't know how I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
And I have to just chalk it up to my age. Like I was 20, 21, probably, I was probably drinking all the time and whatever, boys on the brain or whatever. That's got to be the reason. Because this movie is great.
Yes.
It's so funny. The cast is incredible. Incredible. I really enjoyed the dialogue. I enjoyed all the stickiness of it. All these little funny things like the smelling of the, he stepped in dog stuff. And just the constant, like, just, what's that smell? Like, just all these, like, little subtle things.
That is so funny. That is one of my few least favorite things.
Oh
yeah, that's on my negative. That's my negative.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, and I remembered thinking, even then, like, when I watched it as a teenager, I was like, oh, it's like they're smelling dog poop. Okay.
I thought it was
like,
funny. I just thought it was funny how they just kept bringing it back to that. And it didn't go any further. It was just like a...
Yeah, that's right.
And I appreciated that little bit of attention to detail. Like, you didn't... So he still
Everyone's
smells
checking
like...
but they're all checking their own
And they're all checking their own feet.
Which is human.
It's something that you would do.
And
it didn't happen just once. It happened with, like, pretty much everybody that came through the door. I thought that was really funny. I loved all these, like, little details that threw back to the game. Did you notice the floor, the pattern on the floor were squares, like the game board?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
It was like, that's one of the first things I noticed. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at it. It's like the game board. Like, it's not like an obvious game board. It looked like a regular floor.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know it came from a game, you would not be like, why does it look like a game board? But it had the big squares like it normally did. I love, like, the secret passageways and all that fun stuff.
Also like the board game.
Just exactly like the board game, exactly. And I kind of forgot about it. So here's the thing. We're big Clue game people in the Walsh household.
Oh!
Yes, we love it. It's a great... we have 3 people in our family, so a lot of games are tailored to 4 people.
Yes, yeah.
So it's annoying and very one-sided, if any game people are listening. But Clue is one of those games. It's a great 3-person game. Yeah. We play it all the time. Emily really loves it. She's actually, during quarantine, created 2 completely different new Clue games. One was Parks and Rec, with all the Parks and Rec in different places and different weapons. Like Leslie's binder is a weapon. And then the other one is the Women of SNL Clue. So we love Clue. So it was really fun to watch this movie as a family. And I liked that they went back to the game, like with the secret passages.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. So I really, really liked that.
So I will say, starting to talk about the board game as a thing, I loved... Just making sure. I loved the idea about the rooms and the weapons when the weapons were given out, and because the weapons have a very real, like, funny purpose, and like they're truly unwrapped. Like, each character unwraps their weapon. I loved that then. I loved it now.
That was very cool.
And the only thing that's funny, so I like Letterboxd, which is like a social media movie lover little thing that actually one of our old guests, Matt, told me about.
Oh.
So, but I've loved Clue for a long time, but someone on Letterboxd said the only thing I don't like about this movie is that their costumes should have been the color of their game pieces. And I was like, I never noticed that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But then someone else said their cars are. And I was like, when do you see their cars, though? And it's true.
Interesting.
So did you notice this?
I didn't notice it.
Anytime, so if you're watching Clue, like when they run out to the parking lot, the driveway, whatever, of the house, You see a yellow car, a blue car, a white car,
that is very
purple
cool.
car. Scarlett's car was red. Professor Plum's car was purple that pulls up alongside of her. So there's that little nod, but I was like, it would have been kind of fun to see them in these kind of outrageous colors. Maybe it wouldn't. I mean,
what was Miss Peacock wearing? Because she would have really been able to
gold.
do.
She was like gold with like
okay.
the leaf crown in her hair, the feathers or leaves, whatever they wore. They were. Eileen Brennan was so funny. So, watching this now, I do feel like someone that I was never, like, as a character, I wasn't like, I thought I liked her, but I was like, was Miss Scarlet.
She was the least.
So here's what's so funny. I identified, like, why she was my least favorite, and it was because she's the most contemporary. I feel like everyone else, this is 1954, this movie takes place. I feel like she's too contemporary. And she's a madam, sure, she's a little more streetwise, savvy, and with it. She feels too much like an 80s construct.
I could see that.
However, on the rewatch, Leslie Ann Warren, so she was originally supposed to be Carrie Fisher, but Carrie Fisher had to go into rehab.
I didn't know that.
So Leslie Ann Warren, though, like, amazing eye acting. Her eyes in this movie, she gives a lot of looks. I think she nails every single one. There's times when they're in a group, and I really feel like she's one of the best reactors. There's a lot of reaction shots in there, and I feel like, and even when she's in the room, she's going up to the curtain that's blowing in the wind.
Oh yes,
I'm telling you, watch this movie, and like it's not overdone. And she's
a great actress. I mean, she's a really amazing actress.
Yeah.
One quick thing about her: when we first started watching it, Matt thought it was Susan Sarandon.
Oh, I can see that.
She looks a lot like her.
Yeah, she does look like her.
A lot like her. And I said, no, that's Leslie Ann Warren. She's like, really? He didn't believe me, and he had to look it up. And I was right. But yeah, no, that's a good point. And yeah, I think that I think they were all great, but she was one of my least favorite.
Yeah.
If I had to like oust one, I would have ousted her because I didn't feel like she brought a lot to the table. But you're right; she was a great reactioner.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if Kristen, if you like watch this a year from now, if you'd have a different take on her, because it took me a second. It took me a bit. Like I said, I've seen this movie a million times, but like it took me a bit to identify why I wasn't crazy about her, and I think it's because all the other, even in their cadence of talking, everyone else is like very. Like, it's very snappy.
Yes.
Because she's a madam, because she's this sultry, sexy woman.
She's supposed to be
She's
sultry.
slow.
Yes.
It's a little, like, slower. And it just clashes against the rhythm of the movie. And I don't think that's Leslie Ann Warren's fault.
I think it was the direction.
Direction of it, yeah. And I think, but on rewatch, I was like, I really liked her this time around.
I loved everyone. I think the casting on this was amazing. Eileen Brennan, you mentioned earlier, is hilarious. Of course, Madeline Kahn, she can do no wrong in my eyes anyway. But she just so delivers. And there's one at the end of the movie. It's like towards the end of the movie. She's like, I just hated her so much. Like flames coming out of my head, and like. I'm like, I was dying.
Of course that was improv.
I'm sure it was. Her She's
line,
so good.
So allegedly, what she was told to say was, I hated her so much that I killed her. Instead, she said, I wrote it down.
It builds.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yes, I did it. I killed Yvette. I hated her so much. Flames on the side of my face, breathing breaths, heaving breaths, heaving, and that's it. It's 20 seconds.
Hilarious.
And like people, like, and because of 2020, the year that we had, like people like sharing that little clip on like on social and stuff because it's like that rage.
This is just that rage, that building
that you can't speak. It's a rage that you can't put into a complete sentence. But here's the other thing with Madeline Kahn. There's two other things. There's several, but I wrote down a couple other ones. I rewound it and watched it. And it's so subtle. so Wadsworth, played by Tim Curry, who's awesome.
He's
like
amazing.
talking about, he's really dragging this out. Like, he has something on everybody, but he's allegedly, like, trying to help them until you find out the truth.
Right.
But, but he's really dragging out what he knows. And at one point, Madeline Kahn, Mrs. White, says, her line, I'm not going to say it how she says it, her line is, "Don't you think you might spare us this humiliation?" But the way she says it is that she barely finishes the word humiliation. And it's almost as if she's ready to cry because she's so upset. And I just fucking laughed. I busted out laughing.
Yeah, I busted out laughing several times during this movie. This is such a treasure, this little movie. I want to watch it again soon. Because I feel like, because you were saying that the dialogue is so snappy, so snappy. I know I missed 80% of this movie because I was like laughing about one thing and I like probably missed like 4 lines after.
It's so much of the reaction shots. And I remember being young, watching this for the first time, and I remember when Wadsworth's telling the story about his wife, which is actually a pretty dark story, where his wife kills herself.
Yes.
And he's like, well, to make a long story short. And Martin Mull says, too late.
Too late. That happens throughout the movie quite a few times, which I love. And I say that now, and I don't know if I came that... We were talking in another episode how you developed us...
it's the Misery episode, because she says, isn't that fascinating?
Fascinating, yes. I do that too late all the time. I don't know if it's just because I don't know if that was from the movie or not.
But the funny thing is, Madeline Kahn, after he says it, Mrs. White looks at him and she gives him this look, and it is so dramatic and so slow, and when she turns to face Wadsworth back to Wadsworth, it takes her forever. And I don't know if it's in the script, but Madeline Kahn is such an, I mean, I know this movie became a cult classic later on, but but people do go back to her performance in this, and it's not over. I think it's still underrated.
It is.
She's
amazing.
So funny. There's just lines that when she says, I think it's Colonel Mustard and Wadsworth are arguing, or someone's arguing, and she has a glass by the fireplace, and she goes and she says, "Please!" and then she smashes the glass, but she's still holding it. And then, and she says something else, and then she just lets the glass fall out of her hand and smash.
Yes,
Oh my god, it is so funny.
I have these. I was writing furiously a bunch of these things that I was hearing that I thought was just so great. Who was talking about he was an illusionist and he never reappeared?
Oh, that's Mrs. White.
That's Mrs. White, right? And so he was an illusionist. He never reappeared. He wasn't very good at it. These lines were so fun.
Right after that, she says something like, "It was a matter of life after death. Now that he's dead, I have a life."
Yes. Oh my gosh! So how many husbands have you had? Mine or other women?
Husbands should be like Kleenex, soft, strong, and disposable.
Oh my gosh! And then, why would anyone want to kill him twice? It's what we call overkill. Oh my god! Seriously, some of these lines I just love.
We could just spend the whole episode saying
lines. Let's just say lines. That's all we have to do.
3 murders, 6 altogether. This is getting serious. It is so good, so good. But to its credit though. There's backstories. It's someone reading. This is not, and I think maybe that's part of the impression of this movie. This movie was not thrown together. They gave every character a motive. It's kind of layered. It goes back to the war.
Right.
It's really.
And it could have easily just been thrown together.
Oh my god, there's no reason. And honestly, and these are even a part of me where I think it's maybe even overwritten with these backstories. But I think that was done because when this movie came out in theaters, there were 3 different endings, as everyone knows. I believe this is common knowledge. And that, if you were, depending on part of the country you were in, or what movie theater you were in, you would see maybe not necessarily the same ending that someone else saw. So ending A is Miss Scarlet did everything. Ending B is Miss Peacock Mrs. Peacock did everything. And then the final one is what, quote, really happened. And everyone killed someone.
Everyone did see it. Everyone killed something. It was so good. And that's how it was on the video. Is that how it
yeah,
was?
That was my first introduction to it.
And
I saw all
think
the
that's
things.
really how it should have been all along.
I think so,
like,
too.
I can't imagine just ending with Miss Scarlet doing it.
So I did watch the review of Siskel and Ebert for this, and I didn't agree with much of it, although I loved them. But they preferred ending A with Miss
Interesting.
Scarlet.
No, I liked the end.
And the last one.
It made most sense.
We would have missed out on Mrs. White's breakdown.
I know.
And Mr. Green saying he's going to go home and sleep with his wife.
Right. So good. That was so good. That was the last line, right?
That's the last line. Yeah.
I just wrote down, I don't know who said it. There's one thing I don't understand. One thing?
I love Martin Mull's proud smile when he has the theory about the cook. And he's right. Mm-hmm. And Wadsworth says, correct, or right. Because Colonel Mustard's whole thing is right. Like, he likes being right, even when he's, wrong. And his smile when he was finally right about the cook, and there was, this pause, and everyone, people were just kind of looking at him because he's so, proud with himself. It's really funny. And again, it's one of those things where I would love to know who was behind all the facial expressions and the reaction shots.
I really think it was an actor's
choice,
movie.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I really do feel like it. Look at the cast. I mean, the cast, they're so good. They had so much chemistry together.
They did.
I really feel like it was like a party.
Yeah.
Like this whole, the cast was such a strong cast, every single one of them. And I really feel like they probably just got drunk one night and they're just we're just going to do this. We're going to be our characters. It has that feel, right?
It does have that feel where it's very experimental. Yeah, let's just try this. Yeah.
And I think the director, and I think you looked up the director.
Oh, so it's Jonathan Lynn. So written by Jonathan Landis and seemingly a few other people, even from Anthony Perkins, the actor.
Right.
And and then Jonathan Lynn directed it. But I would love to see behind the scenes stuff.
I would really do
That'd
too.
Be really fun.
But I think that is a big testament to that director. I think he just hired all of these amazing actors, a lot of these amazing improv actors. Because, I mean, aside from... Leslie Ann Warren, I think, is a little more straight. Mm-hmm. I don't think she's so much more improv. But, I mean, Eileen Brennan, Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, Michael McKean, even Christopher Lloyd and Martin Mull, of course. I mean, they're all pretty improv. Maybe not Christopher Lloyd so much, but... The rest of them are all very strong improv players. Yeah. So I think it was an intended casting. I think he was looking for people to improv and have fun with it. And I really credit him for the casting, and I credit him for giving them that freedom. Yeah. And for the actors themselves for really taking on those roles. Yeah. Because they were just phenomenal. They were just great. Yeah. No matter who you were looking at, it was a great performance. And that's why I want to watch it again, or maybe several times. Because I do feel like I missed so much of other things that were happening while I was just soaking in the performance of one, Yeah.
I will say, because you mentioned Leslie Warren again, I will say, great screams. She screams 6 times in this movie.
Yeah.
And
she's a great screamer.
Each one. And I really liked Colleen Camp, Yvette. I thought she was great.
Oh, she was really good. Yeah, she was
I really liked her.
her.
The cast was great. In terms of things I maybe wasn't so crazy about, because I know I'm giving a lot of love to this movie. This time around, I found the recap a little exhausting.
Okay.
Just a little. I felt like I've seen this movie many, many times. Again, I hadn't seen it in a few years, but watching it this time, I was like, yeah, I feel like this could have been a little, because it was, I think, just physically, it was very physical, the running back and forth. But what I realized this time around is he's really only saying, he's not saying who did it. He's just saying how they probably did it. Right. And I think there's a little bit of okay. But one really quick thing. Sure. There's in the final one, I guess, he said, well, she's someone says, how could someone have killed the cook? We were all in the billiard room with Yvette. And he said, no, we weren't. And I was like, wait a minute, what?
Wah, wah, wah.
So I rewound it, and he was right. Mrs. Peacock is not in the billiard room with
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to rewind it.
Because there's so many
to, and I never did.
characters, and I never noticed that Mrs. Peacock wasn't there. But it makes sense because she had almost fainted, right? He slaps her in the face,
right? And so she's sitting.
She's sitting, and they hear the scream. They hear Yvette scream, and they all run. They leave Mrs. Peacock.
Yeah.
So your brain is still kind of there, but the truth is, Mrs. Peacock isn't in the room, so they're right. And then she did, and she went and killed.
That's pretty awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I forgot about that, and I remembered thinking, I want to rewind to see if I see her there.
Yeah.
I felt the same way.
Yep, and there was something else. Wadsworth wasn't in the kitchen when the cook fell out of the refrigerator, because they also said, well, someone wasn't there. Someone would have had to have been there, and like, no, someone wasn't there. And I was like, oh my god, Wadsworth wasn't there.
Yeah, and that's so. See, I like that. So, do you feel like it was extra long because of the 3 endings? Is that what made it exhausting?
Maybe, yeah.
So maybe that's why they didn't have all 3 endings?
I think...
Because I felt it was a little long, too.
Okay. Oh, okay.
But it was... in my mind, it was really like my first recollection. I didn't remember the ending. I didn't remember anything, really, about this movie. For some reason, I was thinking Miss Scarlet did it. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if maybe that was the one ending I remembered. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really have a reason why. But I could see, I was getting a little like, okay, is he going to recap the entire thing again? By the 3rd one, I'm like, oh. Like, I did get a little bit of a
That's a good point. Maybe that's why.
But I thought he was so good in the whole thing. Like,
oh my god,
Tim running
Curry,
back and forth.
I know.
I mean, honestly, again, I didn't even mention him earlier on the cast, but yes, Tim Curry, again, another great improviser, and just running back and forth, and just being so comedic about it, and out of breath, and oh my god,
And the only other negative was just a timing thing. The guy that shows up at the door of the car, like, and it just takes him a very long time to make that phone call. Like, by the time he makes that phone call, they have all split up throughout the house, and they're already finding things and looking at things, and that would mean he hadn't even picked up the telephone yet.
Yeah,
so that was
he
still
was in
weird.
there for
that was
a long...
minor. It's minor, but
he was in there for a long time. And they locked him in the room.
Right.
And did he call the police right then?
No, he was calling someone for a ride, and he said, "Oh, and one of this is my old boss." Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
then he discovered he was locked in, so why wouldn't he have just called the police?
Did he? No, he was.
I can't remember.
The police officer knew. The police officer knew right away, and then so he was like, "If you don't unlock this door."
But I mean, I loved the people coming to the doors and just like them all rambling around, like, "Oh, don't go into there, don't go," that kind of thing.
The singing telegram.
The singing telegram.
I rewound that too. I watched that twice.
I laughed so freaking long about that. I still giggle when I think about it. Hilarious.
And it's one of the Go-Go's. It's Jane Weedland.
I did not know that. She looked familiar, and I couldn't remember how I thought it, how I knew her from. That's really interesting. The other thing, let's see. I have that same quote that all 3 murders, 6 altogether. This is getting serious. I wrote that down. I love that when they walked in to see the maid killed, they like had no reaction at all. They're like, all right, well, okay, and just like walked out.
Yeah.
Didn't have any reaction at all.
That's a really funny thing, and I think when they were all searching the house, like what I liked is that they don't know who the killer is or killers are,
right?
And just again, like the acting, like the body language of, all right, you're paired with someone to search the house for a killer, even though you might be walking with the killer, and like the body language feels comedically real.
Yes,
so it's just funny. It's so funny.
It's a great movie. It really is.
I will say on our Instagram, our old roommate's Instagram account, I had questioned if this would. Oh, and on Facebook too, we had a movie suggestions for Thanksgiving.
Yes,
and I really think Clue would make a really solid Thanksgiving tradition movie. I think it is super fun. You're trapped in this house all dressed up, expected to eat dinner, but there's people there that either you know and you don't like, or that know something about your past, or that you're just stuck with and can't get away.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's something that's kind of feels true for Thanksgiving too.
Sure.
Or like conversations you don't want to have. And I think it's just really,
Definitely.
just really funny. And cute.
Yeah, that's a good one. You want to just take a quick break?
Yeah, take a break.
Let's take a break and we'll come back to, I guess, just review any more notes and have some questions.
Cool.
All right, we'll be right back. Hey there, it's Brian and Christina. We just wanted to take this break to thank you for listening to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there.
And if you have any questions, comments, or observations, shoot us an email at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Old Roommates. Thanks for listening, and now, back to the show. And we're back, talking about 1985's Clue. Christina, any final notes or thoughts?
You know, there's one note that I put in here that was kind of interesting, that they referenced the World Health Organization.
Yes, yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And I thought that was really funny. And so Matt has watched this movie, I guess, a lot with his friends. I think they used to, I don't know if it was every year, annually, but they used to revisit it a lot. And he's like, he goes, I always thought it was like a made-up organization when they, when they said that. But I thought it was interesting. I probably would have, too, if it not been for 2020.
Well, and also,
who's really,
Well, if you're also kids watching in 1985,
kids,
you're not sure what's...
World Health Organization. I thought that was kind of a funny little thing. So do you have any other further notes?
Two little notes. I laughed out loud, and I don't know why, when when Professor Plum looks at Mrs. Peacock and said, "Just you and me, honey bunch." It just sounds so gross and
oh my
drunk.
gosh. It was very much like his character in Taxi.
Yes, a little
right?
bit,
It was,
yeah.
I forget his name. What's the character's name?
Oh my god. Well, there was Latka.
Oh my god.
Jim.
Yeah,
Jim.
He was very Jim in that moment.
And also, I know we talked about Eileen Brennan, but she has so many great facial expressions and comments and things. And just her flutteriness when she's like, well, someone has to start the conversation. It might as well be me. After all, it's what I do. And she just like goes on. Oh, it's so good.
I forgot how much I loved Eileen Brennan.
Yeah.
Until, you know what I mean? I like, oh, that's right. Eileen Brennan, I love her.
Then the other thing is just a note, and giving a recommendation here. So you don't watch Community.
I watched the first season, like when it was on.
Yeah. So the first season, it's one of those things. It's like the first season is just fine. It really picks up on seasons 2 and 3. I think those are the best seasons. But Martin Mull and Leslie Ann Warren play one of the characters' parents.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, they play
funny!
Britta's parents, and they're
that's hilarious.
They're very funny. They're actually getting stuff to do, which is nice.
Good. Yeah, and they have good chemistry.
But yeah, Clue. So so then you definitely are more.
I loved it, absolutely. I don't understand how I didn't remember more about it. Again, I think foggy brain.
Yeah, again, I think I liked it more also because I always considered like Leslie Ann Warren's character to be a bit anachronistic, but watching it now, I was like, yeah, I mean, it feels that way too, but it's still a great performance, and I mean, they're all so good.
I do think it's one of those movies that gets better with every watching, too.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm looking forward to watching it again.
Yeah.
And probably again. And to your point, I think it would be great to revisit it every year. I think you can get something from it every time.
Yeah.
Just because of the whole huge, awesome cast.
Yeah. They're talking about remaking it. Ryan Reynolds.
I hope they don't.
I hope they don't either. And I love Ryan Reynolds. I think Ryan Reynolds is very funny. He has a great sense of humor.
They can't. Because no one's going to match Madeline Kahn and
I was just going to say,
like,
if they do remake this, they need to leave the Flames speech alone. They should not try and recreate that.
If they redo it, they need to just have it all improv.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like, I don't think that they should, I mean, obviously not all, but I think they should do what they did the first time. Hire improv actors and let them just go with it.
But you don't know if that's true.
I would bet money that I don't know for sure.
It was mostly
I would bet money that happened.
All right.
I can't imagine them. No, I would absolutely,
I wonder how much of the body language, facial expressions, and all that stuff was just, like, that's my real question, is, like, is it in the script, like, you know, Colonel Mustard's eyes bulge out? Like, I just don't know. But they're just also such great comedians.
Yes.
Questions.
So I have a question, and you have an FMK, you said, right? So do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I just realized I didn't put down what I thought you would say. So, all right. So, FMK, fuck, marry, kill.
Yes.
Wadsworth.
Okay.
Mr. Green. Colonel Mustard. Okay.
All right. I think I would kill Colonel Mustard. I think I would marry Mr. Green.
Oh, damn.
And
I'm wrong. Wadsworth. That's so funny. I thought I had it backwards. I thought you would marry Wadsworth. Because he's so, like, fast and witty and quick. And marrying Mr. Green, he's so, like, I know he's not gay, but he's very nebbish. And I think you'd be annoyed by nebbish.
I don't know. I kind of found him to be a little bit more grounded.
He's very jumpy. I don't know.
A little bit jumpy, I suppose. Yeah, you're right. I stand by my choice, though.
Okay, good.
Is that how you would do it?
No. So I would kill Mustard. I didn't even think about it for me. I really didn't.
That's unusual.
I think I would marry Wadsworth. I think he'd be fun. I think I would marry Wadsworth, yeah.
You wouldn't have any trust issues with Wadsworth?
Well, it depends on what ending we're believing.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Okay, let's hear your question.
All right, so here's my question. So they're coming out with a new movie, a new Clue movie.
Oh.
Based on 2020.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so it's going to be basically the same, except there are a couple of changes because of 2020.
Yeah.
They are replacing Professor Plum with Dr. Fauci.
Oh.
And instead of the rope, they are using blank.
Oh my gosh! Well, it could be two. I think of two, and they're fighting for control of my brain.
So it's a weapon.
I know.
Or I'm just...
Well, or something that could be used as a weapon.
Right, a weapon or something you use... Yes, of course. A candlestick isn't a weapon. It's used as a weapon. A lead pipe isn't a weapon. It's used as a weapon.
There's that line in the movie where it's like, all of you are holding a lethal weapon. I'm like, she's holding a candlestick. Let's calm down.
Right. It's not lethal weapon yet.
You have to really hit someone hard.
So anyway, yes, it's just in... Yes, so it's something that...
Okay.
Could be used as a weapon.
I think I have it. I read something super weird that Jonathan Landis he really wanted the soundtrack released in 2011.
Interesting.
Isn't that so weird?
It is weird.
Anyway.
I don't remember much about the soundtrack.
I read that on Wikipedia.
Well, that
so
must be
of course
true,
it's true. Okay.
Is it after you made a donation to them? Okay. I'm sorry. All right, so 2020 version of Clue, a couple of changes.
Fauci.
They are replacing Professor Plum with Dr. Fauci, and they are changing the rope to to blank.
Okay, so I was thinking about this. I was thinking, of course, the stethoscope. Mm-hmm. I was thinking all kinds of things. A poisoned face mask.
Sure.
But I ended up saying syringe.
Ooh.
As the weapon.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Did we match?
We did not match.
Oh.
I put a mask.
Oh.
Because I felt
that was my third.
Yeah.
That was my third
I think
choice.
a mask you can, do a lot with. You can shove it down someone's throat. You can strangle one with it. You could just cough on it if you have COVID and make someone else wear it.
See, I would lace it with poison. Be like, here, use this mask. And they and then they're breathing it in. They're dying.
So you need poison and a mask, though. To know what to do.
Well, that's what I said, Christina.
I know, but that's 2 items.
God.
I mean, I'm just, whatever.
Well, I think that's that.
That's that. What a great revisit.
And that is it for us and for this episode of Old Roommates. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there, please.
If you have an idea for the show or a suggestion or comment, you can email us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Old Roommates. This is Christina.
And this is Brian.
Thanks again for listening. Until next time.